So welcome to another lesson in ELT 250. This lesson I'm going to cover adding rungs to your project and adding instructions to your project, and then how to address them. So this right here is basic. The basic thing is to get us started. Just a few things I want you to see is that if you was to see that you're in your controller organizer in this area here, that if you see that everything is collapsed, the two areas we will be working in is if you hit the plus sign beside your controller, the controller will have the name that you gave your project. If you hit that plus sign and expand it, controller tags. So we'll be working in this area here, and we'll also be underneath the tasks. We'll be expanding that. Then under tasks, you're going to have a main task, and then you're going to expand the main task, and you're going to have a main program. You're going to expand that, and you're going to have a main routine. This main routine is where we're actually going to be writing our logic. So when you first open up your project after you've created it, you'll see a blank window over here. So don't be worried about that. So what we want to do in order to see our ladder logic page, we'll want to take right here on the main routine, we'll want to double click that. And that there will automatically bring up our logic window. Okay, so if you double click it, it should come up and you should at least start with one rung like this, and we always start with rung 0. I'll show you this. So, but if you get a page, if you ever do, where there's no rung, it just says end, there's no problem. As long as you click into this to the left hand side and make that blue, you'll see that up here, if you go under the bit tab, you can go under other things as well, but you'll see that your options change. But for most of them, you'll always see that there's a rung. To add a rung is always available. But if this is not blue, then that is grayed out. So you'll just click to the left, you'll click, and you will get a rung. If you want to move a rung into a particular spot, then I would click and drag. Like if we already have several rungs of logic and you want to make sure that it goes to a certain spot, you can click and drag it to the point you want. And all you got to do is make sure that it turns green. The little dot there turns green, and that's where it's going to snap to whenever you let go. But anyways, either way you want to do it, it's fine with me. Just make sure that if it doesn't go where you would like it to go, you can always grab a hold of it by clicking and moving it where you want it to go. So almost everything can be fixed to a certain degree, so don't get too worked up about that. So now we're going to work in the bit tab, and I just want you to know you see all these tabs underneath your instruction palette. Okay, so you're going to see all these down through here. My favorites tab I've got populated with all the instructions that we'll learn something about in this semester. Okay, and if you don't see, because there's going to be some when we set up our favorites that you don't have in your favorites, and some of them you're going to have to hit this left arrow or right arrow so you can see more tabs, because there's many more tabs than what the screen can show at any one point. So we would just have to scroll to the left or to the right. And I don't expect you to memorize exactly where they're all at, but you will have to use this left and right arrow key at some point. Okay, so now let's get started on some basic logic, and we're going to put in an input. And remember, an input is monitoring a condition. The condition can be just as simple as monitoring whether or not a push button is pushed or not, or a selector switch is made, or a photo eye is made. Those right there are input devices. Okay, and now what that's going to do is that we're going to have an output instruction, and an output instruction is what gives us a result. Okay, so just remember that, and it can be such as a pilot light, a solenoid valve, things of that nature, or our output devices. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an XIC, which you'll see if you hover over it, it says examine on. Now to me that looks like a normally open set of contacts in a wiring schematic. So that's the one that I consider an XIC, and it works exactly like a normally open set of contacts. So I'm going to click and I'm going to hold it and I'm going to drag it down until it turns green on the rung that I want it to go. Now I have an XIC instruction, and I want to make sure that you understand that this bottom part, the symbol itself, is the instruction. The question mark is the tag. So basically at some point here shortly we will have to tell it basically an address of where it's going to be monitoring an input from. Okay. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to add an output, which is like this. It says output energized if you hover over it, but it looks like sort of like a coil in a wiring schematic, except usually coils in a wiring schematic are a full circle. So this right is not a full circle, but is pretty close to being an output coil in a wiring schematic. So we are going to click this and drag it down. And I just want you to see, as long as it's green, it'll go. Now sometimes even though it will go, doesn't mean it will work properly. But normally output devices are to the right hand side, inputs are to the left. And as you see, if I go too far to the right, this dot here turns gray, turns to a square gray box. So as long as that's green, wherever I'm at, it's going to snap it and place it where it should go. Okay, so now I have an input instruction and an output instruction. So this one is going to monitor a condition of an input. This is going to give us a result of that input. Okay, so let's just say the first thing I want you to do is that we're going to give this an input tag name, and where the question mark is, I want you to double click that, and you're going to see this window pop up. You're going to hit the drop down arrow. This takes you into your tag browser, and until you get used to doing this, I would always use the tag browser, especially with these local tags, so you don't have to remember where the colons go and the dots go and things like that. So we're going to be in this local 3i for this simulation here. It's set up a little bit different than what we have in our lab, but I'm using a simulator so I can make this video. So we're going to click the plus sign to expand beside the local 3i. I'm going to click the plus sign again to expand down to the data bit files. Now I'm going to go into the local :3:i dot data brackets, and within the brackets 1, because that's one word, and I'm going to go to 0. So anyways, this right here is what it's going to look like, except in our class you're not going to see a number in brackets here. That's only because there's 2 elements to this and to this word, so you won't be seeing that. Yours will say data dot and then whatever bit level or bit number that you're going to be at. So don't get that confused. We'll go through it in class and you'll see. This is just showing you how to get instructions and how to name those instructions for where you're going to be, what you're going to be monitoring. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing over here, except I'm going to use an output tag. So outputs for this demonstration are in local 4. So we need to look for a local 4O for output. We're going to expand that and expand it out again because we need to get down to the bit level. We click that and then click the down. Now we're going to be down to the bit level. The bit level means it's just the furthest you can go. You can keep expanding and keep going down, but you have to get down to the smallest point that you can get to. And basically that means that it's a bool data type, meaning that you can only have a 0 or a 1 for a value. Alright, so now that we have our input instruction in place, we have our output instruction in place, and we have both of them with a tag name. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to communications because I want to download this into my processor. So I'm going to go to communications, who active, and I'm using a different driver for this simulation because I'm using Ethernet. This is a virtual driver. So I'm going to go to this slot 2, which is where my controller is. And it's already highlighted, so I'm going to go ahead and select download. It's going to ask me, am I sure that I want to do this? I want to go ahead and hit download. It's going to say that it's done downloading, and do you want to go back to remote run? And I'm going to say yes. Okay, so now that our power rails here are green, that means that we are online. You can also tell because right here it tells you that it's remote run. So I mean you're actually getting live status of the controller. So you know that you're online and you know right now that your controller is executing logic. Okay? So if I was to go turn this input on, this output should come on. So I got to go over here and I have to simulate this. So my inputs are going to be here. If I turn input 0 on, which is right here, you see that my output 4, 0 comes on. So let me go into that. So you can see it right here in this slot 4, bit 0 came on. So let's go into here. See, it's on over here. So that's all that we're looking for. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn that off. So hopefully that there makes sense there. Okay, so now one of the things I want to show you is that these are maintained. They're not momentary when I push these. Like in class, we have momentary push buttons. But if we wanted to do a latch for this, and let me just do this right here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add another rung. And here's what I want to show you is that if this rung wasn't where you want it to be, you just click on it and then you can move it. Okay? So if you ever click on it and it goes where you don't want it, you can always just click on it and drag it to where you want it to go. And if you didn't want it, you could always just right click and hit delete, which I want to do this because it'll show you a little bit better about doing latches. So what I want to show you here is that we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to bring an XIC down. We're going to use an OTE. And that if we want to latch this, we'll need to append a rung. So this branch right here, we're going to bring it down. Always go to the left hand side. As I'll show you, sometimes this right here does not work well. Sometimes you cannot grab a hold of it and go back the other way. I've seen that happen a few times and I've had to delete it and just do it again. But as long as you can get it around the instruction that you're trying to branch around, and I'm going to put in another XIC. I'm going to put an XIO here. And again, this XIO could go here or it could go here. Either place. I prefer it on the right hand side, but either place it does the same job. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how to make your own tags. And there's two ways. I'm going to show you, this is one of the ways that you'll do it if you're making tags as you go. So any time, remember the question mark is where the tag goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the question mark. We're going to select new tag. And I'm just going to call this start PB. The three things that you need to create a tag is you need a name, you need to know what data type it's going to be, and the data type is based off the instruction. So you'll have to understand what instruction you're using and what data types you're allowed to use. And then the scope. And in this class, we're going to use everything is going to be the controller scope. So basically this scope here, even if you hit the drop down, you got program and you have the controller, because this is a controller symbol. And the easiest way to also know, if you don't realize what this symbol represents, the name of your project, which this is the name of my project. You'll see it up here, controller, right here. That's the name of the controller, so that means it's controller scoped. Those three things there, you need to always make sure that you check. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to hit create. I already got this tag created, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that. I did it earlier. So as you'll see, just like we did before, it's already in my list. So I'm going to hit start PB. And again, I think I've already got this tag made as well. But if you don't, you'll right click, go to new tag. You'll put in, I'm going to make this one stop PB. Anytime that you hit the space bar, it's going to give you an underscore, because there can't be no spaces in the names. Then we're going to do a bool, because this instruction type is an XIO. It can only have a 0 or a 1 for a value. So that's one reason I know that it's a bool, and it's controller scoped. So I could hit create, but I've already got this one created. But that's all you'd have to do, and it would automatically put it in there for you. So let me go to the browser. So I want to double click, hit the drop down, and go to stop PB. This is going to look just like the 3-wire control circuit that you would use in a wiring schematic. So it looks very similar, and it works exactly the same. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, if I needed another tag, I'm going to right click, hit new tag, and I can say, you can call it output 1, you can call it pilot light. It's whatever you need it to be. So let's just say we want to call it pilot light 1, because we may have more than one pilot light. So let's just say pilot light 1. So we know an OTE is going to have a bool data type, and we're controller scope. So we're going to go ahead and create. Okay. Now, how do we get that to latch? So basically what we want to do is when the start push button is pushed, we want the pilot light to come on, but we want it to stay on even if the start button is let go. So what we're going to do is take the pilot light tag and have it keep us latched, because when it comes on, we want it just to keep on, we want to bypass the start PB. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and accept these changes. Okay, now this is running. So now if I go in here and I just toggle the bit, so if you go to the instruction or the tag, it doesn't matter, either one, you right click, you can hit toggle. Now this works as long as you don't have tag values being updated by something else in your logic. So sometimes if you was to just try to toggle a bit, something else may be keeping the value of that instruction to 0, and it won't turn on, and you may become frustrated, and that's when you'd probably have to force it on. So anyways, you can right click and you can select toggle. You can see that it comes on. You see pilot light comes on, and no matter where the pilot light tag is, here's the OTE, and then here's the input instruction that's got the same tag. See, it comes on as well. So no matter how many times you got the pilot light throughout your program, that tag is going to be to true. It's going to have a 1 as value. So I'm going to right click on the start PB again and toggle it off, and as you can see, it stays true because I have basically shorted around it to keep it on. And just like in a 3-wire control, just like in a hardwired wiring schematic, if you toggle the stop PB now, it will turn it off. So let's toggle that back on. Okay, so now another thing that you need to consider when doing these is that you don't have to use the pilot light or whatever this tag name is. You don't have to use that to latch in around your start push button. meaning that I'm going to edit this. I want to show you. We're going to add a rung around the pilot light, add another OTE, and I've already got a tag name latch, but I'm going to make a new tag. So let's say latch 1, and I'm going to put that in that place. So now we're going to go ahead and accept, finalize. Now the pilot light is going to work independent. It's only going to have an output. That's the only tag, that's the only place it's used in the program. So now when I toggle on the start bit, as long as the stop bit is made, then it's still going to latch around and keep the, I'm going to toggle that off. And again, just so that you can see, it doesn't have to be this one. It may be that you may have other logic that's going to take place before it will latch, so to speak. So anyways, I just want you to see that it does not have to be this tag itself. It can be additional tags. So now I want to show you that, let's just say that we want to turn every pilot light on at the same time. Let's just say if we had, I know we got 16 pilot lights. So if I was to edit this and I was to add branch levels, so we've got 1, 2, let's see, we'll go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we'll have 16. So then I'm just going to take that. I want to just show you that there are a couple different ways of doing this, and just so you can see it. Okay, so now we're going to go in and I'm going to take this tag out. I'm going to double click and back space that out so it goes back to a question mark. And I'm going to right click. Well, let me go ahead and show you the other way to make tags. So basically, if you know that you're going to make several tags and you know what they are, you know the data types and all that, the best way to do that is to go over here to controller tags. So you see that you can right click and go to new tag and create a tag. That's like for one-offs, things of that nature, as you're adding instructions. But if you know that you're going to have several, so we're going to have pilot light 1 through pilot light 16. So let's just go to controller tags. Let's go down to edit tags, and you see the difference here. They're grayed out. You go into edit tags down here at the bottom. You're actually going to have be able to go in and put in new tag names. So we're just going to say pilot light 2. We want it to be a bool data type. So if you just start typing, or you can hit the little 3 little dots there and you can go and look it up. But I'm just going to go ahead and type it in, and you can click in the space or hit enter and it will accept it. I'm just going to tab over and start typing bool, and it'll automatically populate. This to me is much quicker. I don't want to spend a whole video working some of this stuff out, but I think it's important for you to know both ways of making tags. The main thing is making sure that, again, you have a name and you have the data type, and the controller, see right up here it says scope. We're in the controller scope tag base. So this automatically, anything that you put in here will be controller scoped. So you won't even have to worry about that one as long as you're in the right one to begin with. Okay, and I want you to see that between these dark lines up here, if you get between them, you can actually move and change the column width so that you can see the complete title of each name. Okay, so we're about finished. Now, I told you before that everything starts at 0. Well, when you're making your own tags, it doesn't have to start at 0. Which, as you can see, we've started at 1. So we're going to have 1 through 16. But if we'd started with the hard IO, then it would have been 0 through 15. Okay, so now we're in the controller tags tab. So if you want to go back to where we was at in the logic screen, if you hit the control key and tab, it will take us back. So now if we just click, and we can start typing, and then we should just be able to get the next one. Now you could do this right here if you pick the tag, and you could do this and go back and change just the last digit. But you have to be careful, because if these are tags that you made on your own, if you misspelled one, if you didn't put a underscore, or you just had a typo, then that tag will not work. So always be careful about the way that you name things, because it could not work. And so don't be frustrated. So that's why sometimes it's best just to go to the tag database and pick them out of there. And whichever way you like making your tags is fine with me. My main concern is that you get them made and get them made correctly, and then get the correct ones assigned. So it's going to be palette height 8. So I think I got all my names correctly, because I've seen many people get these get their tag names wrong, and they're wondering why certain things don't work, and generally that's why. That's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so I've got them all in. So we're going to go back to accept and finalize these. So now you can see all of our pilot lights are on. So now if these were addressed to the lights on our cabinets in class, that means with one button we could turn off all 16 lights. We could turn them all on and then turn them all off. I'm going to toggle that off and back on. Oh, I need to see, here's where I would have to take one of these pilot lights for the latch, or I could add another branch here and put in the latch 1. That way I wouldn't have to change that. That way if I toggle that off, my latch goes off. Turn the stop button back on, because I don't have no physical button to press, so I have to actually turn it off and then back on. And then if I hit the start button again, everything comes back on, and everything can be turned right back off. Okay, That's pretty simple. So this right here again is putting bits in parallel right here, and you can do that. Remember what we said in class? The one thing I urge you not to do is to do this number. Do not do this. It will only let you do this so many times before it will give you a error, and it won't even let you download it after so many times of doing this. It won't even accept it. So don't do this. Always extend your branches down like this. And it's always, all you have to do is click on the last one that you have and go up here to where it says branch level, and you can add them on that way. Or you can click on the branch where you want to add it in at, right click on it and hit add branch level. Either one gets the job done. So it makes no difference to me how you do it. One other thing I want to show you for this is that you could also, you do not have to put all of your, if you want to turn several things on at the same time for the same exact conditions, you don't have to put them in like this. This is only one way. You could have a rung for each one. So, for instance, if I wanted to do the same thing, but I could have an output, let me just say input, so we'll do another 3-wire control, style setup, latch, okay. And I ain't going to do 16 lights on this one. I just want this, you to see a couple rungs of the same thing. Okay, so here I'm going to put the start PB. I want to put the stop PB here. Here I'm going to go ahead and put latch 1. Okay. And then I want to latch it. I want to also bring that down to here. It's going to be pilot light 1. I'm going to bring pilot light 1 to here, and I'm going to do pilot light 2. And then what I want to do is I want to delete this one here. So I'm going to right click and hit delete. So I got the D's there. I'm going to accept, hit yes. Now what's going to happen is that if I turn this on, they still all come on. And basically what it's doing is when latch 1 comes on, I'm going to stay latched. Latch 1 also will turn on pilot light 1, and pilot light 1 turns on here and also turns on pilot light 2. We could also have done it this way. Let me get back out of that. I want to cancel those edits. So let's just say even if I had done this, and it's made so as soon as I turn on latch 1, every time I do a latch 1, I'll be examining it for an input condition, and if that input condition is true, then it will turn on whatever's here to the right hand side, whether it's a pilot light, a solenoid valve, or whatever. Okay, so I just wanted you to see that there's different ways of doing this, and there's not particularly wrong ways. Sometimes there might be better ways based off exactly what you're trying to make happen. But I just want to give you a little rundown of how to put in some rungs, some input instructions, and some output instructions, and showing you how to create some tags. So with that there, I want to conclude this this lesson. And if you have any questions on it, please feel free to ask. Thanks.